The first thing Emma noticed was that the librarian never blinked. It wasn't just one of those things people exaggerate about, like how Mrs. Flanders at the post office never smiled. No, this was real. Miss Calloway, the gray-haired, papery-skinned keeper of Crestwood's small-town library, sat behind her counter for hours, her thin lips pressed together, her eyes as glassy and unmoving as the marble bust of Shakespeare that gathered dust by the window. Emma had been coming to this library since she was a kid, and she'd never seen Miss Calloway look away from her post. She'd never seen her step outside either. Some people joked that she didn't even go home, that she slept between the stacks with the books, keeping watch like some kind of crypt keeper. Emma used to laugh at those stories, until the day she swore she saw the woman's reflection in a book. It started innocently enough. She was browsing the back corner of the library, looking for something obscure to help with her history paper. The shelves were ancient oak, so dark it looked black, carved with initials from generations of bored kids who'd snuck into the library to waste time. The smell was thick with dust and mold, the air damp like the inside of a cellar. Her hand brushed a book that didn't quite belong. Its cover was worn leather, cracked, and it had no title on the spine. Something about it felt wrong. The air around it was cooler, and when she pulled it free, her fingertips tingled like the faint buzz of static electricity. She opened it, expecting faded words or notes scrawled by some long-gone student. Instead, she saw eyes. They weren't drawings or photographs. They weren't her reflection either. They were Miss Calloway's eyes, flat, colorless, and wide open, staring from the faint shimmer of the page like water reflecting a face. Emma gasped and slammed the book shut, her chest tightening. The sound echoed through the stacks, and she froze. When she peeked around the shelf toward the main desk, Miss Calloway was there in her usual spot. Her face hadn't moved, but Emma could swear she saw the corners of her lips twitch, almost like a smile. She didn't take the book right away. She told herself she was just imagining things, that she'd been studying too hard, that the trick of dim light and nerves had gotten to her. But as she walked past the desk to check out another, more ordinary book, Miss Calloway slid something across the counter. It was the same leather-bound volume. "You forgot this," the librarian said, her voice dry and papery, as though it hadn't been used in days. Emma's throat tightened. I didn't check that one out." The librarian leaned forward. Emma wanted to back away, but her feet wouldn't move. She realized then, up close, that Miss Calloway's pupils were so dilated her irises barely existed. Her eyes were huge, endless, like dark wells you could fall into if you stared too long. Her lips cracked open, and she whispered, "It chose you." Emma left the library faster than she thought possible, clutching the leather book to her chest without meaning to. She didn't remember agreeing to take it. She didn't even remember Miss Calloway stamping it. But when she got home, there it was, sitting heavy on her desk. That night, the dreams began. She stood in the library, but it wasn't the same. The walls were gone, and the shelves stretched endlessly, disappearing into blackness above her head. Books towered so high they vanished into shadow, their spines glimmering faintly like rows of teeth. She could hear whispers in the aisle's pages turning, footsteps shuffling, distant cries muffled like they came through walls. And then she saw them, people, hundreds of them, crammed between the shelves, their faces pale and expressionless, their mouths moving in silent screams. Their arms were pinned at their sides, and each of them had words scrawled across their skin in ink-black letters. They weren't people anymore. They were catalogued. Emma tried to run, but the floor kept pulling her back, dragging her toward the central desk where Miss Calloway waited. The librarian's eyes gleamed from the shadows, larger than ever, unblinking, her hands spread wide like claws. "You belong here now," Miss Calloway said, her voice echoing from every direction. Emma woke up screaming. Her mother rushed in, flicking on the lights, but Emma couldn't explain. She just stared at the leather book still sitting on her desk. It was open. She hadn't left it open. And on the page, faint and shimmering, were her own eyes staring back. Emma didn't go back to the library the next day. She told herself it was just a nightmare, that the reflection she saw was a trick of the light, that stress and lack of sleep were playing games with her head, but the book wouldn't leave her alone. Every time she walked into her room, her eyes went to it first. She moved it to her dresser, shoved it in a drawer, even locked it in her closet under piles of clothes. And yet, every morning, it was back on her desk, open, waiting. On the third morning, she found new words written across the first page in spidery crooked handwriting. All knowledge has a price. She dropped the book and backed away, her skin crawling. That was when her phone buzzed with a text from her friend Lily. Study group at the library later? Don't flake. Emma's stomach knotted. The last thing she wanted was to go back, but Lily would hound her if she didn't show up. And maybe, just maybe, seeing the library in daylight, full of students and normal activity, would prove it was all in her head. She arrived just after sunset. The library was too quiet for a weeknight. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, and the air was cold enough that her breath fogged when she exhaled. She found Lily at a table near the back, surrounded by notes and empty coffee cups. "Hey, where have you been?" Lily asked. Emma hesitated. "Just busy." She glanced around. No sign of Miss Calloway at the desk. For the first time she could remember, the librarian wasn't there. "Lucky you," Lily said with a smirk. "Creepy old Calloway's been circling around all night. It's like she doesn't even walk, you know? More like a book slid off a nearby shelf and hit the floor with a thud." Both girls jumped. "Just gravity," Lily muttered, but her voice wavered. Emma's skin prickled as she bent down to pick up the book. It was thick, bound in cracked leather, edges brittle. Her stomach sank. It was the same one. Only it wasn't. This copy had no dust, no wear. It looked new, almost freshly made. And when she opened it, the pages weren't empty. They were filled with names. Hundreds of them, handwritten in tight black ink. Each name was followed by a date. The most recent one stopped her breath. Lily Carter, October 12th. Emma snapped the book shut. Her hands shook. "We have to go," she whispered. Lily frowned. "What? Why?" Emma shoved the book into her bag and grabbed her arm. "Just please, let's get out of here." But when they reached the main aisle, Miss Calloway was standing at the far end. Her head tilted at an unnatural angle, like her neck was broken. Her eyes glowed faintly under the buzzing lights. "You shouldn't take what isn't yours," she said softly. Her voice didn't echo like it should have. It sank heavy into Emma's bones. Lily laughed nervously. "Okay, that's terrifying. Are you practicing for Halloween or something?" Miss Calloway didn't move. She just stared. Emma tried to step forward, but her legs felt weighted, as if invisible chains were wrapped around her ankles. Her heartbeat roared in her ears. The librarian raised one thin finger and pointed toward Emma's bag. "Return it," she said. Emma wanted to. God, she wanted to. But the bag felt fused to her shoulder, her fingers refusing to let go of the strap. The book pulsed inside, warm and alive, as if it wanted to stay. Then Lily gasped. Emma turned. Lily was staring down at her arm. Words were etching themselves across her skin, black lines curling like ink, bleeding beneath the flesh. Her name, her date, written exactly as Emma had seen in the book. "What the hell, Emma? What's happening?" Lily screamed, clawing at her arm. The ink didn't stop. It spread up her wrist, over her elbow, branding her like a living page. Miss Calloway stepped closer, her movements smooth, unnatural. "All who enter the stacks must be catalogued. Knowledge must be preserved." The lights flickered, and in the brief darkness, Emma saw flashes of the dream again. Endless shelves, faces pinned between books, mouths frozen mid-scream. Lily staggered, falling to her knees. "Get it off me, please." Emma yanked the book from her bag and hurled it toward the desk. The moment it hit the wood, the light snapped back on. The ink on Lily's arm stopped moving, though the letters still burned black against her skin. When Emma looked up, Miss Calloway was gone. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Lily whispered, "We have to leave. Right now." Emma nodded, but as they hurried toward the exit, Emma cast one last glance at the desk. The book was gone. Emma barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lily's arm, the words carved into her skin like a brand. And she heard Miss Calloway's voice, low and calm, echoing in her skull. Knowledge must be preserved. By morning, Emma had made a decision. She couldn't just ignore it. If she left things as they were, she knew Lily's name would vanish from the world, just like the people in her dreams absorbed into the endless shelves, trapped forever. She had to go back. The library was nearly empty when she arrived. The morning sun filtered through tall windows, painting stripes across the floor. For a moment, it almost looked normal again. Almost. The front desk was unattended. The chair sat pulled back slightly, as if Miss Calloway had just stepped away. Emma moved quickly. She didn't know exactly what she was looking for, only that the answers had to be deeper, beyond the neat rows of books everyone else saw. She walked past the study tables, past the quiet reading nook, and into the farthest aisle. Her hand brushed the wall, fingers searching for something. A crack. A seam. A handle, and then she felt it. A thin line in the paneling, almost invisible. She pressed her palm against it. The wall clicked and swung inward, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling into darkness. The air that wafted up smelled of mildew and rot. Her legs shook as she descended. The steps groaned under her weight, and the further she went, the colder it became. Her breath fogged in the air. By the time she reached the bottom, her teeth were chattering. The basement stretched wider than the building itself should have allowed. Towering shelves rose into shadow, far higher than the ceiling should go. Each shelf groaned under the weight of books, thousands, tens of thousands. Their spines glistened as if damp, though no water dripped. She pulled one down. It wasn't paper inside. It was skin. Pages made from it, thin and stretched, etched with names and dates. And the ink was moving, alive, squirming across the page like worms. Her stomach lurched. She dropped the book, gagging. That's when she heard it, a soft shuffle behind her. She spun. Miss Calloway stood at the end of the aisle, her eyes catching the faint light like glass. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Her voice was steady, but her jaw opened too wide, her skin stretching unnaturally. Emma stumbled back. "What is this place? What did you do to them?" The librarian's head tilted. "I preserve them. All who walk through my doors. Their knowledge, their essence, their truth. Nothing is lost. Nothing forgotten." Her hands lifted. Her fingers were long, thin, bone-like. She gestured to the shelves. "You call it horror. I call it immortality." Emma's chest tightened. "Then Lily already belongs to the stacks," Miss Calloway whispered. "You too, child. Your page is waiting." Emma turned and ran. Her footsteps echoed through the cavern, bouncing between aisles that seemed to twist and shift, never ending. The shelves grew taller, closer, as though the library itself were closing in. She could hear Miss Calloway behind her, not footsteps, but the soft scrape of something gliding over stone. Desperate, Emma ducked into a side row and grabbed the nearest book. She yanked it open. Pages fluttered wildly, and faint screams poured out, high and distant. Shadows writhed between the lines of ink, forming faces that clawed at the margins. She slammed it shut, her ears ringing. Another book trembled on the shelf, its spine splitting, black liquid oozing out. It dripped to the floor, forming words that crawled across the stone. "Return what is owed." Emma's bag grew heavy. She froze. She hadn't brought the leather book, she was sure she hadn't. But when she looked down, there it was, sticking half out of the bag, its cover pulsing like a heartbeat. She tore it free and hurled it to the ground. It burst open, pages flapping, and for an instant she saw herself inside her own face inked into the parchment, screaming silently. "No," she cried, ripping at the page. It came loose in her hands, brittle as ash. The library roared. The shelves shook. Books tumbled, slamming to the floor, their covers snapping like jaws. And Miss Calloway was suddenly there, inches from her face. Her eyes filled Emma's vision bottomless, endless, pulling her in. "You cannot tear yourself out," she hissed. "Once written, it is forever." Emma's hands trembled around the page. She had one thought left: fire. She fumbled for the lighter she kept in her bag, thumbs scraping the wheel until a flame hissed to life. The page curled, blackened, caught. The scream that tore through the library wasn't human. It rattled the shelves, split the stone, sent cracks through the ceiling above. Books burst into flame one after another, a chain reaction, the inked names shrieking as they burned. Smoke billowed, thick and choking. Miss Calloway shrieked, her form convulsing, twisting into something tall and inhuman. Her skin dripped like wax, her jaw splitting down the center. Her eyes melted, pouring down her face as the fire spread. Emma ran, clutching the burning page. She bolted up the staircase as the shelves toppled behind her, fire chasing her heels. She burst through the hidden door, coughing, slamming it shut just as the heat roared up from below. And then silence. When she turned, the library looked untouched. The students at their tables glanced up, annoyed by the noise. Everything was normal. The fire, the screams, the shelves. It was as if they had never existed. Emma staggered toward the exit, shaking. Her hand still clutched the charred scrap of her page. She dropped it, meaning to leave it behind. But when it hit the floor, the ashes formed into two words: not finished. Outside, the morning sun was blinding. Emma gulped fresh air, tears streaming down her face. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Lily. "We need to talk." The words on my arm, they're spreading again. Emma's blood ran cold. She looked back at the library's windows, and for the first time ever, she saw Miss Calloway move. The librarian stood at the glass, unblinking, watching her go.